Okay.
Let people join. Let me grab the. So yeah, like you're driving. How is the like? What all did you stop? Like when you were stopping and seeing things, what all did you? What were the stops on the road?
I picked up Reed Coverdale in Utah, or we not picked up, but we drove separately through the Grand Tetons and then through Yellowstone, and then we spent a week at Freedom Fest. Reed almost died in a car crash. That was fun.
Really? What happened?
Yeah. He got clipped. We were just going through this little tiny town in Wyoming, and I don't even know. There was just this kid in the left-hand turn lane in the center lane.
Oh, it was a kid?
Yeah. He was
That's
like
the worst.
18, 17, something. And he's pulling into the McDonald's parking lot. Reed's truck is right in front of me. Kid is just like absent-minded, probably looking at his phone. Who knows? He just turns right into Reed's driver's side door. Reed's truck lifts in the air, does like a 270 in front of me. And I thought Reed was dead, man. It was horrifying.
Oh, man. Oh, Jesus. It was a bad one? Like you actually rolled over?
No, it didn't roll. It just spun.
Okay.
But yeah, it was bad. It was bad for sure. And Reed was totally fine. It was a total miracle. Obviously, his truck was totaled, so I drove us the rest of the way to South Dakota. We got to, hang out with Dave all week, and then after that, I headed to.
Oh, I bet that was fun.
Oh, it was a blast. Yeah, Dave's.
I've always wanted to hang out with him. I don't know if I'm ever going to get that chance, but hopefully, if he moves out of New Jersey sometime soon.
Yeah.
And they start coming. When they start coming for the woke to give everybody the woke poke, I think that's going to be the time when a whole bunch of people start to have to move to a more civilized area like you.
Yeah, exactly. And then then I spent a week in Texas with the Childerberg people, and then I went out to. Then I met some more friends in Austin. Went out on Scott Horton's boat. Hung out with a.
Oh man, you were here in Texas?
Just briefly.
I would have. Yeah. No, I'm a Florida man, but I'm in Texas now. So.
Oh no shit! All right. Well, I'm trying to decide on which country I want to live in. The nation of Texas, the nation of Florida. We'll see.
Oof, that's a tough pick for me. There's so much things I want to do with both, and I have more confidence I can get it done in Florida, but not sure. But be much more valuable if I could get it done in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think we'll hit that today. But let's see. Howdy sweet cheeks to you too, Joshua. We got a guy in the chat.
Nice.
But yeah,
I went to Orlando and I got to meet Glenn Jacobs, and I got to see Ron Paul speak in person for the first time in my life. So that was a big milestone for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's something to put in your trophy case.
Oh, dude, it was huge. I was stunned.
Were you a Ron Paul convert?
No, I'm kind of a born and raised libertarian, which is really rare because my dad was one.
Second generation. Okay.
Yeah. So I was a libertarian in high school, and Ron Paul didn't really become, a household name until probably 07, 08. But I knew of Ron Paul in the late 90s. So, but the fact that he made a movement of young people was the first time I felt in my life like we actually have a chance here. Like we have a chance of a popular libertarian revolt. And so that's why I idolize the guy.
And it was before my time, but I've kind of, I came of age kind of in the Tea Party movement by like 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't familiar with the ideology at the time. I was just a born and raised, constitutional conservative, not really a neocon, but constitutional conservative.
Sure.
And my father was like big into Rush Limbaugh. So that was where I got my political start. And that was where I got my first red pills.
But back then that was all you could hear was talk radio. Like that red pilled a lot of people.
Yeah. And but yeah, it's like I really feel like that founding that foundation and Rush Limbaugh was what really set me up for libertarianism later on.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the right wing version of libertarianism.
Absolutely. Yeah. I listened to Michael Savage for years. I was a huge Savage Nation guy, so that was my AM foray into talk radio and now doing the podcast and things like that.
Yeah, it's like now you get to you got a big one now, right?
My show?
Yeah, your show. Isn't that you're at like like I know you're at least like what 19 or 20,000 followers on Twitter, so I'm sure that must be translate to several thousand.
Oh yeah. I usually get anywhere between like 5,000 and 10,000 listens per episode. Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah,
cool.
That's amazing.
And I only started 16 months ago, so it's really been a whirlwind. Shout out to our boy P. Quinones for putting me on the map. I mean, I wouldn't be anywhere near where I'm at without him. So
yeah, and well, I mean, you got your own personal success too. So
yeah, no, I know, but I mean, in terms of like the breakthrough, him going on Part of the Problem and bringing me up, and Dave then backing that up because he had just seen me debate this neocon was like, it was just like the stars perfectly aligned.
Oh wow. Okay, so that's how you came out of nowhere.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what it was. So without Pete, I mean, maybe I still would have got here eventually, but he greased the tracks, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, hey, I think we can go ahead and get started. About 6 minutes in.
Let's hit it.
So yeah, like we were talking on actually, before I get started, I want to tell you about Paloma Verde CBD and tell you not to use a faggy promo code like King. You want to use a real promo code like Popular, because that's the popular one. And you know what? None of those other the King one, that doesn't work. It actually it increases your end cost. It doesn't bring it down at all. And it's like so if you want to help fund my awesome show instead of some lame show like King Pilled, who just had me on just earlier this afternoon.
They're gonna really appreciate this promo.
Yeah, if you want to spite Matt, go use mine, and we're gonna have a competition of who gets more. No, I'm just kidding, but dude, this is how I sleep at night. Libertarians always ask me, Andrew, with such horrible libertarian principles, how do you sleep at night? And I tell them, Paloma Verde. That's exactly how I get to sleep with the archotropism framework in my head. So that's how that works. In addition to some knockout from InfoWars, that stuff is golden. You put the two, and dude, you are out in minutes, and you stay out. You don't get up to go pee at 3 a.m. So but yeah, get this. These gummies, they do not have any sort of weed aftertaste. A lot of edibles they have a real aftertaste to them of that tastes like weed. Doesn't have that at all. This tastes exactly like a gummy bear and is by far the best. And I usually get like 2 of these. I tried the green apple one. I'm still gonna go with the strawberry lemonade. Strawberry lemonade is the best. And again, that is promo code Popular, not promo code King. So all right. So I'll probably do one more of those sometime in the broadcast. But yeah, so you and I think we've talked a little bit before on Twitter a few times.
Yeah.
And I think, we had an exchange earlier yesterday about, what do we do with these political protests? Because by God, they are fun to watch. It's like they have some real entertainment value there. Mm-hmm. But I think you and I we've kind of come to the same conclusion that okay, shit needs to get done now because we all just got put on house arrest last year. So the time for theory is basically over now. We've hashed that out. The time for action is now, and and of course that gives you the question, well, what action? Mm-hmm. And I think we differ on the LP strategy and the GOP strategy, and I think you're an LPMC guy.
I am, but I'm not like one of those. Yeah, okay. I'm not like a ride or die. I would only vote LP. Like if Rand Paul was going to be the next president of the United States, I'd vote for him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And but yeah, I think we've at least libertarians movement as a whole, we've gotten to basically these to the point where we need to actually start taking action now because this is unsustainable.
Mhm.
And it's to the point where, I mean, they're about to start going door to door with these, with these woke pokes. And if we don't get power, there's no way to stop it. Like having power is the only way to stop stop them from being able to do that and going door to door.
Mhm.
And at least at the local government level, because at that level you can tell them to go fuck off because we control the cops. If the cops follow orders, we really need to be the ones giving the orders. And
Sure. Yeah, that's all fair.
You and I were talking about like one particular aspect, which was protests, because we were seeing where the in Australia and France, we're having quite a lot of nutsacks going up against the cops and actually like pushing them back and having real civil disobedience. And I was of the opinion that these are ultimately going to be counterproductive to us. This merely gives the state an ability to justify power more, further power grabbing, and short of having an elite there to really turn it into an actual running riot that gets things done. You're not going to be able to actually manifest this. This is just disorganized violence. This is just chaos, and this can't they're not going to be the plebs. They have no ability to organize themselves and to actually make something out of this. And we need some elites right there to actually there is power there. There is it is something of a threat, but it's not the kind that's actually going to change anything. You need an elite there who can actually say, go ransack that building. That's the sort of thing that is actually going to start getting results. Actually, and go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say briefly that I think that the reason I had a different opinion, particularly on the Australian one, where they charged through the barricade. First off, it's a relatively arbitrary, nonsensical law that they're breaking, and the people are being held from one, I don't know what they call them, city, province, whatever, to the other, basically putting up quarantines for entire lands of people. So when I saw them charge through that, the reason I liked it is because I just had on Liberty Down Under on my show, and we talked about it, and he was saying his suspicion was that there was only 5% of the population there that were adamantly opposed to lockdowns. When you see something like that, if you've been sitting in your house for a year and a half and you go, I'm by myself, all I see is the news. I'm bombarded with social media bots telling me to just stay home. I have movies, politicians, everyone is telling me I'm a bad person if I don't want to stay home forever, indefinitely. I think there's power and there's value in having, I'm not saying continuous.
Yeah.
I'm not saying continuous, but I think that was a really galvanizing thing. And because of what happened there's these, they call themselves truckies. The truckies are banding together. The truck drivers of Australia are banding together and are claiming they're going to shut down transit of goods. I mean, these people, they're plebs, and to me, they're wielding way outsized power. Now you're probably going to counter with, well, they're going to be labeled terrorists and they're going to be arrested, and it's just going to increase the tyranny. But that's not always the way. I mean, sometimes governments do back down from a populist revolt. So I don't know. I like, for me, I would rather see that than not. That's
yeah. I mean, I agree with that. It's certainly better to see them out in the streets than not. And because the reason that I think this could go somewhere is that as long as basically the big mob of people right there is basically like a gun sitting on the table. And by itself, the gun is harmless. The gun isn't going to get up and start shooting people. And it needs someone to wield it. If when there's that kind of power sitting right there, some elite is going to be thinking, what if I grabbed it?
Mm-hmm.
And because that's how revolutions happen. And the difference between a protest that turns into just kind of an orderly guided tour through the Capitol building And and the difference between something like that and like the Soviet Revolution is, so that's the sort of the difference is an elite. There's a group of elites there who's like, that's a mob, I'm taking over, and and we need something. I don't think my position so much is that protests are bad and counterproductive. That is norm by themselves. That's true. Unless if there is an elite there who's able to actually galvanize that and order it around, then that's a big weapon, and that's how revolutions happen. So
I think it's interesting to me to hear someone who, do you still classify yourself as an anarchist or no?
Private property society. So it's people will usually equivocate that with anarchism. I don't think they're the same, but sure. I still think that's pretty dang close. Well, I believe in private property, that we should have a fully private property based society.
Right. Well, and I'm fully on board with that. I just think it's fascinating because it's like this assertion that it must be an elite that wields that gun, as opposed to, I mean, are there no examples historically that you see where a populist revolt, there is no elite within it, but a leader emerges from it?
I mean, there's quite a few examples of populist revolts that all get put down and just killed. And
I know that's the norm, but I'm just saying, like, there has to be some exceptions.
Virtually none. The ones that have elites generally are the ones that get recorded in history as this government got overthrown. And I can't think of any examples of where, and usually the reason for that is because, this something Pareto talked about, the circulation of elites. Some people, they're an elite family, and then they have a kid who's just a pleb. Their mindset is that of a pleb. And because, elite is a mindset, not not an act, not just a birthright.
So, I agree. And so as someone who was raised into, a middle class that became an elite family and had the elite mindset kind of bred into me, there is an absolute difference in how I look at the world versus how, and I don't even mean to separate myself from normal people, but I have a unusual outlook. Like
it's how you think.
Yeah, it is
bred into you.
Yeah, it is.
I agree 100%. But yeah, it's like, and so the only time you get something, an elite coming really from the outside, and there's something there that interrupts that circulation of the elites, and you get an accumulation of elites on the outside of the ruling class. So you have an accumulation of plebs on the inside of the ruling class.
Okay.
And that, and that happens like with monarchy. This is why you would get those sort of, this is why it was an unstable system, was that, you would have an accumulation of left-wing elites on the outside of it who would constantly try to overthrow it. And this is exactly what happened with the Soviet revolutions. You had an accumulation of elites on the outside of it, in the Soviets, and they overthrew Tsar Nicholas and his family, and the Romanovs. I think that was their name.
I don't want to interject too much, but I just want to ask, do you think that there's, from my perspective, there's probably a lot of people I would consider plebs, role players, not leaders, shitty, idiot, dumb, low IQ, just PR people that are in modern politics in America in particular. So is that not ripe for a circulation of the elites?
It's basically the plebs can be middle management, and that's usually where you find them. When you find them in power, that's ripe for a revolution and a takeover.
But that's what I'm asking. Do you think that's what we're in now, or do you not see it that way?
I think we're pretty close to it. Okay. Yeah, I do think that it's not that there's so much that there's an interruption in the circulation of the elites right now, because they're there, but we're seeing for some reason that you get people who have more pleb minded, they're getting to higher levels of power, and that doesn't really make sense. That's usually not the way it works out.
Well, I would argue that that's probably a product of a decaying culture, where you have, especially when you have democracy, where you have people voting in people that tell them dumb shit. If you have a decaying culture, you're going to have more people that want that. So you end up with people that say dumb shit and then they end up in power. So it's kind of like it. I still believe, and I think you guys do too. You guys talk a lot about cycles and patterns, and it's like, I think that's what this is. I think this is an eternal pattern, and we are ending that arc, and we're going to go
Yeah.
back towards revolution, and then we'll reemerge.
Yeah, I think what's ended up happening, there might be an alternative explanation for why we have such a bunch of plebs that ended up in government. It's because the real elites got managed to find different places in capitalism. You're usually like the Fortune 500 CEOs; those are all elites, every last one of them.
Sure.
And you manage to get there, you're an elite. And and the problem is, okay, well, if elite, someone who's an elite, you're like talking 1% of the population, maybe, and not all of them are in a position like you or me, where we could probably get ourselves in there. And a lot of them may be lower down; they're just not in the right place where they can act on that behavior, and then you get plebs in the government instead. So there doesn't appear to be an interruption there, but it's still that.
What do you mean by interruption of the circulation of the elites? Is that like?
So like you can't get in there. You can't. Yeah, and this is something you find with republics is they're all the reason they work is because you can get circulation in there. That it's not broken. You can't be like, okay, with a monarchy there is no entrance into the ruling class.
Okay.
And
it's a bureaucratic morass that keeps us from having a natural circulation of the brightest and best rising up.
Yeah, or the most predacious and evil sociopathic.
That too. Yes.
Yeah, that's like that. Those are the people who get in, and like right now that doesn't quite exist. But the fact still remains. Okay, well you have plebs in government and elites kind of in the capitalist system. This is why I'm kind of thinking, the capitalists might actually end up becoming the government. In an actual private statecraft sort of manner. I think this is what we're kind of seeing with like the censorship right now. This is the beginning of what Apple is actually going to be your formal government in a generation or two. And this is what that looks like to start with, because the censorship. Because remember, it's a private company, bro. When you say that to these, basically these reptiles, what you just told them was that they can get more power by being private. It's like, well, okay, careful what you wish for, you just might get it.
Exactly.
And so when I think if you were to start, protesting those guys. Well, there might be that might give you some change. It might, because that's where that's going to come from, because they're the elite. They're the ones who have to pay the price. But I said, okay, if you have to get it so that the elites pay the price for your protest or whatever. So it's like I'm not advocating that we tar and feather Anthony Fauci, but yeah. I'm definitely not advocating that we, tar and feather the bureaucrats, who are working in the, health and human services or whatever, who are going to be enforcing, these door-to-door, woke pokes. But that's exactly how you would do that. That's the sort of protest that would actually do it, like a big mob, that kind of breaks through it. That it's wonderful to see, because there is that anger there. That's not going to that's not going to and stop them from going door to door and still doing the woke poke.
No, you're right. The only reason I see value though is because the guy that I have my show, Liberty Down Under, he was so black-pilled, and I haven't got the chance to talk to him yet, but I bet you anything, that kid, he's only 19 years old or something like that. Yeah. That kid's sitting at home thinking that he's got no allies in his entire nation. Saw, motherfucking Mel Gibson ride through on a horse. He saw these people, these rugby players blast through a line of cops. That is inspirational. That's the type of thing that actually fires up people to guard their doors, to stack, tell the cops to stack up if you want to come woke poke me. Like, that's the type of shit that can slow tyranny. It can also speed it up, and I grant you that. So like, yeah, I don't think it's like by its nature, like the way you and Matt were framing it. It was like, this is undoubtedly bad. I think that there's a chance that it's bad, but I also
think by itself is counterproductive, because now you're just baiting them into cracking down harder, because
you're not just doing that. But you're not just doing that, because you are also inspiring people who had given up hope. That there's meaning in that. Like I
Yeah.
that's why I don't like the focus
Okay.
exclusively on the elites, because you still need the plebs to fucking follow the elites. And if you have plebs that are fired up to follow an elite like a Ron Paul type leader guy,
Okay.
you know, there's
I
value.
think I agree with that. I think I agree with that. There's value there, you know, in giving hope to people. But there's no political change that's going to come of that without some elite right there who's ready to say, all right, those are my people. I'm leading the charge, and we're going for it. We're actually going to do this.
You have to look like a viable weapon. So if you are, 10 people wandering around that look rudderless and aimless, they're just upset. You just start punching cops. You start doing stupid shit. No elite's going to look at that and go like, oh, I can wield that, But if you're an organized force that looks ready to do something, then some opportunistic elite might look at that and say, whoa, they just blasted through that cop line. They had some tactic there. They found a focal point. Like, these guys aren't total idiots. I might be able to use these guys. I'm just saying, like, it's accelerationist. With accelerationism comes both the potential for better outcomes and far, far worse. So that was my entire quibble.
You're rolling the dice. And it's like I'm not a big believer in luck, because I believe in making my own luck. And I was a gambler in Vegas for for about 2 years. I gambled on sports betting. I was really good at it. I paid rent that way.
Nice.
You can go up against the Joe Blow with the Joe six pack with a can of beer in his hand, or I can go up against the sharks on Wall Street. It's like, if I'm going to be,
that's an easier mark.
Much easier. And they're going to be, losing their rent, and I'm going to be paying mine. And
I was a sports bettor and a Texas Hold'em player for years and years. So I feel
you know all about EV and expected value then. Yeah. The way I would, if we start getting stuff like this here in America, because I really do feel like this is what's coming.
Yes.
It'd be nice if, the LPMC and the GOP, Mises caucus, we're both having, a few mayors here and there who can actually, like, I'm the authority, I'm in charge, we're doing this.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, we've got Glenn Kane Jacobs. He's Knox County mayor, and that dude he's pretty legit. So, I mean, like, we do have some, it's not much, but I agree with you. We need a hell of a lot more of it, and we need it like fucking now, because it's going to get really rough.
Yeah. And this is something I've kind of talked about before, where, if we have our own elites, if we are the elites, the people will just follow you. It's like, you don't need to convince people that libertarianism is right. Convince them that libertarianism is in power. Like, that's the idea. That's the sort of thing they really care about.
Wait, convince them that libertarianism is power?
No, is in power. The guy with the guy in the mayor who's directing the guys with guns, that guy's a libertarian.
Yeah.
And that, you don't need to convince people that our policies are correct. You just convince them that this is what we're doing because I have the power, and they'll just go with it. And you see this all over the place, and where the like the right in particular, they have a very hierarchical mindset. Mm-hmm. And it's like they just instinctively understand that's the guy in charge. I'm just going to do what he says. And I don't have to
a fault. They respect hierarchy, in my opinion. But yes, you're absolutely right.
But hey, I think of it kind of like a hacker. Like this, that's my background is as a cybersecurity guy. Mm-hmm. And I think of it as that's exploitable. So you're telling me all I have to do is manage to finagle my way into that office of power, and they'll just follow me with unquestioning loyalty.
Right. Yeah. Well, especially if you're a better ruler than the old guard, like then you'll have their loyalty to the end of the earth, because you actually are treating them better than the old guard. So I don't disagree with you when it comes to the right. When it comes to the left, I don't think that they're going to respect your authority in the same way.
No, they don't. They don't, because they want chaos. They want the disorder. They want the barbarianism and the uncivilization. And with the right, who doesn't want that. And by the way, most libertarians don't want that also. But I think that that therein lies such an opportunity. We get just a critical mass of mayors, and it's all over for them. it's all over for the regime if they try to do something, because at that point we can make archotropism work in reverse. I don't know how familiar you are with my theory of archotropism.
I've heard you explain it once. I think I watched the episode with you and Pete and maybe you and Matt. But if you could recap, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, basically the idea of archotropism is that it's all based on economics, and it just so happens to mimic thermodynamics, but which is really interesting, but I won't get into that part. But the idea is, okay, the elites, the way they will always try to gain more power is, by causing the chaos. They're basically the arsonist firefighters. The elites will try to extract, or they cause chaos in order to extract order from it, which gives them power. Mm-hmm. And the way it works basically is, okay, anytime you have an outbreak of chaos, and order is always more preferable, even by lefties, they still prefer a terrible chaotic order to pure like rampaging and violence. Sure. And even they don't like that, or at least they do, because it serves their ends, but because their ends are power. But anyway, when you have you have orders to start with, then you have an outbreak of chaos. So now what that translates to is, okay, now we have a shortage of order, and you have the state who comes back as saying, I'm selling order, and pay me in power. Mm-hmm. And so you pay them in power, and now they resupply the order. And sure. By the way, then they never ever give that power back, and they repeat the cycle. And This is how they gradually raise their raise their power level, is through creating these shortages of order, which is chaos.
No disagreement there.
Mm-hmm. And so when you have this cycle that, okay, we know that they're creating chaos, and so they can extract order, why don't we make that work in reverse for us? So anytime they create chaos, we're going to be the ones to extract order, and we'll be paid in power. And that's it. And I see that this is what's coming down the road. I'm thinking, okay, all it's going to take is a few mayors, okay, probably more like a few hundred, that can actually get together and say, actually, we're going to crack down on this shit. And and we're the one, and we're doing this because we're libertarians who love order and free markets and whatever, and all that. And that's all that's going to take, because to make our enemy's process work for us instead. And again, you've mentioned accelerationism as well. Well, okay, we're in a place we don't control. That'd be a wonderful reason to have that thing, be practically on fire. Not literally, but right. It's like if there's a place you're going to be accelerating, you need to have basically both sides of the coin. Where some guys are out there, preaching order and saying, hey, if you give me power, I'm gonna be the one to give you order, and the other guys out there being the arsonists, basically.
Sure. Well, but I guess my biggest question there would be, how is it that you get the candidate that's espousing libertarian ideology and order, paired together? How do they win out over your normal Democrat or Republican that just comes in promising, free money, and we're going to crack down on homelessness, we're going to crack down on crime and all that shit, because that's what they've always done?
Yeah, the way I would do it is, because these jurisdictions usually, okay, not your big cities might be a little bit different, but your smaller suburban areas, the people who live there are there because they want order. And if you point out how, hey, these guys, when the woke poke comes, they're not going to protect you. I'm going to protect you. These guys, you voted for them for years. What a bunch of squishes they are. I am, making my platform is you give me power, and I will maintain the order that says that that when the lefties come with their woke poke, I'm going to tell them to take a hike, and I'm going to have the cops. I'm going to say, 1, stand down, don't help them with that order, and 2, arrest them if they try. And it's like, I am running. I want control of the cops, so I can tell them, arrest those people.
So basically, the DeSantis path.
Basically, yeah. Well, yeah, and it'll work on a mayoral level, because that's an easy way to win, because they're all scared of it right now, particularly in red areas. If you're in a red suburban area, this is I would say you need to, if you're a libertarian ANCAP, you have an obligation to be the one to run for that office, because if you don't, no one else is going to defend them, and they probably know it. Mm-hmm. And this is it'd be such a welcome relief to them to know that the guy in charge, is anti-woke poke and wants to use the cops to defend me against it, which is exactly the thing I'm paying them for.
Well, have you paid attention? Because I just be totally honest, I do not pay attention to local politics across the country, so I have no idea what the new class of candidates, the people that are in response, they are reactionary to the fact that we're woke poking and masking children and all the other bullshit. Is there a huge flood of mayoral candidates and sheriffs and people that are coming out saying, I'm not going to go down this path? There's not. Okay.
Nope. And that's the opportunity. It's an undefended opportunity. It's an undefended citadel.
But this would be my question for you. I agree with you that there would probably be, I mean, not everywhere, obviously, but there would probably be many jurisdictions where that would be a very popular stance. Why would some, standard Republican or even a Democrat come out and just say, I'm going to run on that, whether I believe it or not? Like, why is that not happening? It makes me feel as if maybe it's not as popular as we think.
No, the reason for it is, a lot of people, they're very conflict averse, particularly on the right. That your right-wing candidates, the reason they're squishes is that these are very conflict averse people.
Yeah.
As like these people have no balls, and and all of the Republicans know it. It's like that they will run on, and they have like a bunch of rehearsed lines that they know how to use in order to get power. But beyond that, they don't want conflict. And
that's how I feel about Justin Amash. He's like, I have like decent principles, but then I'm a fucking just roll over to anything, anytime. And I mean, he's one of the best people, but he's still so soft. Like I want fire breathers in these fucking positions. Like this is so catastrophic. It's so damaging what we're doing to our children. And yet I can't get any politicians other than DeSantis, basically, to come out really aggressive. Even Trump doesn't really come out hard. Like it's still kind of wishy-washy.
Ron Paul was a fighter.
Yeah,
like the right really loves fighters who are really going to take a hatchet to the enemy. And Ron Paul, this is part of a major part of his appeal was that he was willing to take a hatchet to the other candidates and just he just nuked Giuliani.
Yep. And he was willing to say unpopular things and sometimes shift the audience in mid speech. It's like, what happened? Why? I agree with you. It does seem as if many Republican voters like that. In fact, they really want it right now. Why is it not arising? I mean, I grant you, historically, Republican candidates have been very fucking weak. But why now? Why are they not, they're responding to the market?
They're the same weak people that they've always been. And I usually point out as the archotropism guy, weakness invites aggression. Mm-hmm. And if you're a pussy,
they got a lot of it.
Weakness is inviting my aggression, particularly. right. And I think it should be inviting the aggression of ANCAPs, and that's not. I don't see that as a contradiction in terms.
Sure.
It's because this is such an opportunity to go after them and be that guy to say, I'm going to be the one. The cops follow orders no matter what. I'm going to be the one giving them the stand down order that said, when the goons come into and they want the help of the cops to, help enforce these vaccine, mandates and these forced vaccinations. And, and I don't know did you see that video in Australia of the one father who was holding his son, and, there's like 3 cops right there who's like holding the father down while the two lab coats try to inject the screaming and crying son, and who's like trying to run away from them. And I mean, if you didn't have people, you should probably go look. If you haven't seen that in the audience, you should go look that up. It's like, it's tough not to think murderous thoughts after seeing something like that. I guarantee you that father is thinking to himself during that while he's struggling with the 3 cops, power, if only I had power.
Right.
And he's thinking that right now.
But you know what happens when enough people feel powerless and they're being abused like this? I think we're going to start to see fucking terrorism. I think we're going to see like literal, because these people are very, very low power. Their odds are completely stacked against them. Their jobs have been taken away. Their children have been traumatized. Many of the, parents that have their kids end up offing themselves because of the mental trauma they've gone to, those are the people you need to look out for. Because if we get enough of that, and then also you're enslaved in your home and you're also broke, like, you're going to see some people go fucking nuts. And this is why I've been screaming into my microphone for 18 months almost, is because I knew this is where it was going. And it was just like, and I mean, finally we're a year and a half in and it seems like I'm starting to get some traction here, but it's just like, damn, man, people are so slow to realize like where this all leads. And it's just tragic.
Oh yeah. I mean, I bought a gun for the first time because, in January, because I saw what was coming.
Yep.
And I was able to buy a house because of that too. Because I was always betting in the markets and like, okay, they're going to slam interest rates down to 0, and there's going to be a crash. We're going to bet against it, and then use the down payment as a 2 weeks later, because the interest rates are usually mortgage rates are usually locked into the 10-year. So okay, 2 weeks afterwards, and I timed it almost perfectly to the day.
Awesome, man. I had the complete opposite reaction because I thought that if they were going to keep the economy locked down long term, which they essentially did, it would break the economy. And I thought that they were stupid enough not to realize that they needed to flood the market with fucking printed fiat. And I was wrong. First, I didn't think they would have the will to print $7 to $10 trillion over.
That one threw me for a loop too. I didn't think that was coming.
I didn't think that they had the political will. I didn't think that they were psychotic enough to do it, and they did. So now we have a real estate market at all-time highs, even though we have people that are, struggling to get by. It's just total madness.
But getting back to our main topic, though.
Please.
But like when people are powerless like this, and they're basically like they feel like their power has been taken from them, or what that power they had, they didn't really have any. But like they're looking for someone new to give it to, and they're looking for protection right now. And I think this is a perfect time. Basically, there's a fire sale going on for fire insurance. And it's like they're looking to buy insurance while the house is on fire, and libertarians should be selling. It's like that. This is we're not going to get another opportunity like this, particularly from the right, where they're just like, I don't care what you believe, and like they're willing to ignore the fact we're not conservatives. I would say, hey, look at Rand Paul, look at Thomas Massey. These people vote the way they say, and you can disagree with me about whatever else. Right now I'm running on protecting you from them. That's team bad guy. I'm team good guy. I'm team good guy protecting you from team bad guy.
And I'm legitimately team good guy. I'm the guy that will actually protect you. I agree with you, man. I think that that's a fucking huge opportunity. This is why I was so upset with the Joe Jorgensen campaign, because I was like, what are you doing? We're locked in our homes. This should be the only thing you talk about. So yeah, I agree. Like, I would love to see
this
more.
Is something as the GOP guy, I agree with the LPMC on this, that hey, they need to focus more on local elections, which are winnable, rather than these these Shane Hazels. Shane Hazel would be an excellent mayor or an excellent city councilman, and this is a terrible senatorial candidate. There's no point in having him there. It's a much better. You will spread the message much better by having Mayor Shane Hazel than Senator, failed Senate candidate Shane Hazel. And if you put Shane in any mayor's office anywhere, I guarantee his people will be far safer with him in charge. And right now, that's like they can get liberty too while they're at it. And if you run on a message of safety, we'll probably win. And this is exactly the same thing I'm pushing for, like the Mises GOP is, we're going to have a series of local elections where we are running on a message of safety, and we're the ones running on the cops. Okay, if the cops follow orders, we're going to be the ones giving the orders, and those are not going to be the orders that the higher ups at the state wants. We're going to be giving the stand down orders on enforcing any sort of vaccine mandate, and we're also going to be doing quite a few other things that they're going to like to. And it's a different kind of messaging than the pure libertarian messaging. And it's like, okay, they're going to get liberty as a side effect, but we're selling safety, and liberty kind of comes with it, and it's a package deal. And I think they'll buy.
I'm with you. I think it can be packaged in a way that it still maintains our principles, but just focuses on something we don't normally, which is safety. I mean, we don't normally focus on that, but when it boils down to it, what we are actually offering would be far safer than the alternative. So I think it's fair to frame it that way.
It really is. I mean, we're telling the truth. And we're not lying to them when they say that, okay, you'll be safer with us in charge than those guys, because let's face it, they're not coming to protect you. And that's like the best sort of argument I could possibly make for any right wingers. They're not coming to protect you, and I'm right here on your doorstep.
Right.
Yeah. And but if we have to have, but getting these people in charge, I think getting our status as elites kind of centered around that we're the ones providing the order. I think this is what, will eventually give these protests, which I think are coming. I think they'll give them a lot more legs. Is if you have, if you imagine, like, if you had a group of libertarian mayors leading that charge in Australia, that thing looks very different. That looks very, very different. I can say, all right, that's that Health and Human Services building. That's the one we're going to go protest in front of, and we're going to break through. That's like that, again, in Minecraft or something like that. But like that, that's the sort of ideas. You need actual leaders in charge with real power who can direct the people, because the people naturally look to these sorts of elites. They're always in demand. Elites exist because they're in demand.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I think they are in demand right now, and there's no one that's actually filling that void that would do anything I would like to see. I mean, that's the problem, and oftentimes there is no leaders that are elites, as you frame it, that are even filling that void.
These are plebs that are in charge. Like I said, we have a whole lot of plebs in charge of the state, and they're non-confrontational. They're conflict averse. And you know what? That sounds like weakness to me, and that weakness invites ANCAP aggression, or at least it should.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah, this is this archotropism framework. Again, it's like, okay, if chaos naturally demands order, it's like, well, okay, we can make that work to our advantage. This is not something that that only the state can use. There's two can play at that. Two can play the archotropism game.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't disagree. I don't know if I was supposed to, but I don't disagree with that.
No, I thought you would. This is about how I saw the conversation going. Is you and I are going to end up agreeing on the solution here. Because if the protests by themselves don't really do anything, they're fun to watch and they're inspiring. They do give people hope. There's obviously value in that, but we need to translate that to power, because power is what gets the real change. And I think that the protests are a symptom of what's possible if we can get some libertarian elites in charge, even at a local level, because that's all it takes.
I think that the other difference between you and I is that I have a little bit more faith in chance. I think that there is at their core, I think that more people see what's wrong right now than they have in my entire life. And because of that, it gives me hope that the odds are more in our favor than they have been historically, that there will be leaders that arise from that uprising that direct them in a better trajectory. And it hasn't happened yet. I think that's the one thing I always have to remind myself is I am always early. I am always in front of people, because I see things sooner than everybody else. I'm able to see 4 or 5 steps ahead, and I can always
you're a money manager kind of guy.
Yeah, I am. So I guess that's the skill set that I have, but it's also just how my brain works anyway. So it's very frustrating. But what I have to remind myself is okay, if I felt this way 18 months ago, and now I'm starting to hear it from my normie conservative relatives, that means that okay, 6 months from now, they're going to be closer to me. I'll probably be more radical at that point. But I'm just saying, it feels as if people are headed in our direction. So I feel like there's a better chance that even if we're not responsible for actually putting the leaders in place, someone will do that. And I know that kind of seems like I'm washing my hands of it, but I'm more optimistic than you are in that regard.
That's where I might, because who is going to do that but us? It's we are the guys. It's I said this on another podcast. I forget who said it originally, but someone else said it originally, that the conspiracy isn't that the pedophile that our elites who are in charge of our government are pedophiles and satanists and stuff like that. That's not the conspiracy. The conspiracy is that someone else is coming to save you from them.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, if it's not us, it's not going to be anybody. And
well, let me reframe that. I'm not saying that it won't be someone like us. I'm just saying it may not be you or I. Like there's a lot of, I think maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you don't think that there's a few thousand people in the world that are having the same thought, the same conversation right now that are also game planning how to become the leaders of the, freedom revolution?
I mean, Clint, you already look like a Florida man. So it's like, I really think it's like you already are a spitting image of like Florida man, Mayor Clint. It's like,
okay. All right. I'll do it. I'll run. Fuck it. Yeah, no, I'm open to it. Honestly, like if I move somewhere and I can do that, and I can have a chance at winning, I will absolutely do it. Like I am ready to get my hands dirty. Like I have, because I focus on my career and I focus on financial goals for my entire, adulthood so far. And then the fucking world imploded, and I was like, okay, now I have to get involved. So this is what I'm doing now. So yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You get to Florida. It's like they'll take you. Yeah. They'll put you in charge. And
I was just having dinner with Bill Bishop 2 weeks ago in Redneck Riviera. So I'm with it.
Yeah. He is he's a perfect example of, because he's about to take the fight to the school board, and he just got permission to do that. And like, because there's so many good options there to so many good places to stick the knife to make the left hurt. And because let's face it, if they want to use the system for the education system for political indoctrination, two can play that game. And it's like, hey, we're going to teach socialism in the schools. Here's your textbook. It's by Mises. Socialism by Mises.
I love it. I mean, this is honestly, this is kind of the answer to many of the questions I've had. I just didn't know how to fucking implement it, because it's like I've wanted to counter propagandize children. I do. I'm not going to deny it. I would much rather propagandize kids towards liberty and freedom than the dogs they've been getting fed. So, yeah, I mean, whether that's unlibertarian of me or not, I don't know, but that's how I feel about it.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's unlibertarian at all. I think it's wonderful. If they're going to provide us with, put these kinds of weapons on the table, of course I'm going to pick them up.
Right. And it's defensive.
And by the way, and this is where I think, okay, we don't really need to we don't need to win hearts and minds, because there's more than enough of us already to, take over every single local government, office in the United States, every single one of them, and have a lot of libertarians left to spare. If we just got to have this mindset of, oh, actually, I'm going to run for power and I'm going to fucking take it from them. And I'm going to do it, and because they made some stupid mistakes and they were cowards, and I'm going to hang them for it.
Yeah.
And you get that attitude in Minecraft. People. It's like, they're not actually hang them in real life, but I'm going to hang them politically for it.
Yes. I'm just trying to keep it clean here. I'm with you, man. I think that the thing that we lack, though, is both. I mean, first off, we severely lack political acumen. We don't do it, like, because we don't have any political power. So I don't think that we're not as well oiled a machine, but we are smaller. And if we get the right leadership in place, we could outwork them simply because they have a bureaucratic system that I'm sure could not be as brilliant as what we could do. So I'm hopeful. I mean, I don't know. Have you had much luck in like propagandizing other libertarian leaders to go down this path? The Mises GOP MeWe group is growing every single day with people who are like, yeah, I'm ready to run, and I'm ready to just take the power from the local idiot who's in charge and doesn't know what to do with it. And again, they've made such bad mistakes right now that I see no reason we just can't run on a message of, we'll keep you safe. They won't. And I don't think messaging alone is going to be enough. I mean, you're going to need resources, wouldn't you?
Nope.
Really?
Yeah, the amount it takes to get elected, and the average suburban mayorship is about the cost of a pair of sneakers. New pair of sneakers. That's about it. No, it's cheap. It's fucking cheap. This is something I learned, when I started, learning to campaign last year. Is holy shit, these people are fucking defenseless. It's like, because I would always ask the other, people. I knocked on probably close to 1,000 doors and spoke to close to 800 people. I had an enormous, answer the door rate, which was incredible. And like 80% is like unheard of. But I would always ask people, it's like,
it's because of the lockdowns.
That's probably right. You're probably right about that. But that was something I would always ask is, have the other candidates come by? No? Okay. And and they're always happy to see me. Yeah. And
that's the success. That's the success of YAL. I mean, that's what they've been doing.
Yeah, and this is like something they teach you in like campaigning school, which I took a few classes with the Leadership Institute, and that's like the first thing they teach you is block walking. It's like because everybody else doesn't do it. If you do it, you win, and the people are always overwhelmingly like friendly. Like 800 answers at the door. I probably had like 2 people who told me to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And this is in Texas, and they were everyone is so incredibly friendly, and they're happy to see you. And they're all extremely concerned about what they're seeing. And you just have to be the one to, sell them the safety, sell them the peace of mind. That's all that's going to take. They will show up to the polls and vote for you. And same thing with these, when they're teaching like, critical race theory in public schools. People don't want that. I mean, they're showing up in protest. You have to be the one guy saying, I'm running against this clown. You see these clowns up here who are fighting you, I'm running against them. So vote for me if you don't want your kid being taught to hate himself because of his skin color.
How's it work for mayoral candidates? Is it every 2 or 4 years, or is it different?
Usually they're off-year elections, which are even smaller turnout.
Okay,
they're usually odd-numbered years.
Okay,
too.
and is there a primary process? Like if you wanted to run as a Republican, it would just
usually not.
So there could be like 3 or 4 Republicans, 3 or 4 Democrats on the ballot.
And a lot of times these other candidates, they don't campaign; they just put signs out. That's it.
Right.
The cost of their campaign is less than $1,000
because it's just signage.
Yeah, that's basically it. And it's
dude, I'm going to be a mayor. How cool is that?
Pretty much, yeah. You move to suburbia America, buy yourself a new pair of sneakers, and just knock on the doors and say, "Hey, I'm here to protect you from the woke vote." That guy's not going to. And vote for me.
How much do mayors get paid? I want to see if we can actually entice people to do this. Do they get like 80, 90, 100,000?
Nothing like that. No, they're usually part-time, once-a-month gigs, where you can have a full-time job at the same time, and it's basically you get paid. You still get way overpaid, but like where I am in suburbia Texas, it's like you get $9,000 a year. And that's you basically work maybe 10 hours a month ish.
Well, all right. Well, then
2.5 hours per weekend.
That's even better. Then all the podcasters could go be mayors because we've got plenty of time to do it. That's
bingo. Yes, that's exactly like once you start actually getting in and you see how fucking defenseless these guys are. It's like that was such a white pill to me. And I'm like that was when I made the decision. I'm going to go found Mises GOP and start getting libertarians in there because the moment a few of them really get in there, it's going to spread the message really quick that these guys are defenseless. We can totally take them. Yeah. I mean, it's a David and Goliath sort of situation where people don't realize that Goliath was like blind as a bat.
Right.
People don't know. People don't realize that there's like 3 different places in the Bible where he's showing symptoms of extreme nearsightedness, which is common for people who have acromegaly because the tumor that makes you into a giant is a brain tumor on your pituitary gland. Eventually, it gets big enough to the point where it starts pressing on the optic nerve, and you get extreme nearsightedness because of it.
There you go.
All right. So I mean, David's right there. He's lining up to take a shot at him, and Goliath is still thinking he's going to have a close quarters combat, which is that is clearly not the case.
He has no idea he's even winding up. He can't see it. So
yeah, he can. He can when David comes down into the gulch. Goliath is like, you come at me with sticks plural. And, David only had 1 stick in his hand. He was having double vision, because of that. And, it's like Goliath had to have his armor bearer, help him down into the gorge, because he couldn't, it's a steep cliff and he couldn't see enough to get down in it by himself. And, and you would think, why didn't Goliath try to dodge? It's because he couldn't see him.
Have you talked to Shane about this?
No, but I don't think he likes me very much. I was kind of a dick to him in the past, because I was kind of butthurt. Because my last campaign I did, we lost by 300 votes, and the Libertarian took 3,600.
Oh, okay.
So I was really pissed about that. It's like I was a dick.
The reason I bring it up though is because I think Shane would be a fucking. I mean, if it's that easy and as passionate as he is, as compelling as he is as a speaker, like I see no way he would lose if he wanted to be a mayor somewhere.
Like I think Libertarian Party people particularly, they've really given the state far too much credit. When it comes to how organized they are and how much these local politicians actually want to hang on to power because they don't work for it. Yeah. All we have to do is really put in the footwork with a new pair of sneakers, and that's about all it's going to take for most suburbia mayorships.
Clearly, I was one of them, man. I was giving him way too much credit on the lowest level. I still think, at the highest level, it's probably a real bitch, and you need some serious money to play ball. But if I could just go be the mayor of somewhere to ensure that I don't get fucked with anymore, that sounds like a huge. Like I don't even need to be paid. Like if I could just be the mayor of somewhere where I can know that I have the power to wield to stop the cops from doing woke pokes and shit like that. Like that's all I need. You don't even have to pay me. I just want to live there. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, the average state rep, I know the figures off the top of my head here in Texas, the average state rep race that if you win costs about 800 grand. And the average senatorial candidate is about 1.3 million. So, and the average, and the average like mayorship is like a few grand.
That's wild. Wow.
Because no one imagines that it's that little. No one understands that divide because everyone thinks that there's no power to be had there, and that's where they're incorrect. That's that's where all the enforcement is. If you think about all the things people love about government, they're all done at the local level. Everything they love about government is at the local level, not at the state level, not at the federal level. Right. You think like roads, bridges, schools, police, firefighters, EMS, all the excuses government uses to justify its own existence. These are all done at the local level, and we everything they like about it is done right there, and we need to be in charge of that because then we're doing the things that everyone likes, and then we can make them the enemy by saying, okay, they're doing the things that everyone hates.
Yeah, well, and also, if you do this in mass, you could have, and you're a really popular mayor because of it, because you have actually done what you said, which they never get. You might then be able to turn around and become a congressman in that district pretty easily because. And not have to compete, with the same war chest of money. So
you're running it down the road as like, hey, I was a protector of the people. Right. Like that's a really big, feather in your cap.
Yeah, well, especially if you're running on the Republican side.
Mm-hmm. Especially on the Republican side. And especially in these gerrymandered districts, which, by the way, we're about to get a fresh round of gerrymandering. It's going to be far better this time. Last time we did it, we got like 60 fucking seats in the House because we used computers for the first time ever to gerrymander all the districts perfectly. And now there's way more data than there was before, and now we know exactly how to make these districts far more red. And the computers are more powerful too. So. Yeah. 10 years down the road, 10 years more data, 10 years more powerful computers. This is going to be a bloodbath for the Democrats. And, and this is the perfect time to be, either running as a Republican in a heavily gerrymandered district in the primary where there's less people, a higher turnout, and a better concentration of, Liberty Republicans who will happily vote for you. If you say, hey, this guy's a squish. We all know he's a squish. He's been a squish for years. Vote for me. I'll keep you safe. And, I'm going to, raise hell, in Congress because, fuck these assholes.
Yeah.
And that, this is we aren't going to get another chance like this for, I don't think we're ever going to get one. It's taken this long to get one.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that we'll get a better chance just because things are going to get really, really fucking bad when the dollar dies. So I think it's now or never, man. Well, you sold me. I think that the mayoral path makes the most sense. I will still be supporting Dave Smith though, because I think that he's the guy that can wake more people up. But while he's waking people up, you can actually take some power. So I think that's the perfect balance.
It's everyone. It's nice to have one guy, spreading the message because let's face it, he's the only one of us who can actually get onto those shows, and there isn't another guy. Like basically, the LP strategy is really the Dave Smith and mass media strategy. He's the only guy. It's like there is no other Dave Smith, and so what the LP brings to the table is basically the L. And without a Dave Smith, there is no LP strategy. So
I agree. I was completely disinterested in the LP until Dave Smith emerged.
Yeah, and he's the only one who can make it work. And after he's gone, there's no one else to make it work. But at the same time,
I don't know about
that. Who else is going to be able to get on the Joe Rogan shows and all that?
You don't know. I mean, we've got a whole bunch of people that are building up audiences right now. So I mean, people can emerge. You don't know. We'll see.
Okay. There aren't any yet, but
I'll grant you that. There's no one else there now, but
I think
possibly
eventually. But yeah, Dave Smith is the only guy who can possibly make the LP strategy work. But and more power to him. But everybody else who's not at his level needs to be, the next mayor. We need to have Mayor Clinton, Mayor Andrew, and
I feel you, man.
And everywhere, because this is what's going to eventually, get us our elites who can turn these protests into actual political changing events.
I'm with it,
buddy. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, no disagreement, man. Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
Yeah, that's what I thought we would come to kind of the same idea at the end.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, well, I think we both understand how dire the situation is. So, people that are offering fucking any solutions, I'm all ears. I'm definitely not a ideologue. I want to actually have freedom in my lifetime. So I'm open to ideas.
When I go public with the anti-tax in a few weeks, it's like, oof. This is the thing that's going to get us to Ancapistan, that, and it takes a whole bunch of mayors to do it.
Well, I'll stay tuned, man. That sounds awesome.
All right, I look forward to talking to Mayor Clinton in the future.
You too, Andrew. Thank you, man.
Take care, buddy.